Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you so much for turning up on what is a glorious evening here. I don't know, we'll find out in a minute where you all are. But what we hope is going to be a really informative opportunity for us all to explore a little bit more and share some experiences about mindfulness in schools, in whatever form it takes. And I've actually been reflecting back on doing this there, and we've just been talking about this, that I first met Kamala Gita uh, nearly 10 years ago now, and Kamala Gita had been involved in mindfulness a lot longer than I had, but we were both on a mission at that point, in terms of we knew that there were materials for schools, and we felt this was something that we had, something that actually our children need to be able to deal with the world and to enhance their lives. Because we say mindfulness helps us cope, connect, flourish, and empower change. So it's about coping, but it's also about enhancing lives. So we met on the first day of the Teach.B course, and that was in 2014. And oh my goodness, we thought that we needed to help children cope with the world then, and teachers, but look how much worse it's got since then. So the need is just enormous there. So we're looking to just really to extend our network and work with all of you to help get it out there. We're still on that mission. But in the meantime, Kamala Gita has taken that mission that step further and gathered together so much information and experience that she'll be able to share with us tonight there. But before we go on, we just thought we would quite like to just to go around the room and just to find out who you are. It might be interesting to know where you are, because the circumstances are quite different in England and Wales, for example, or some of you might even be further afield. And just to say whether you are already familiar with mindfulness or whether you're coming to it new, very briefly as we go around the room. So, and I'll come back around to you, Kamala Gita, and then we can weave yours around with you introducing yourself and then starting. So I'm going to go, rather than just get you to volunteer, which is very stressful, I'm going to invite you. So I'm going to invite Heather, first of all.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
All good.
Oh, great. It's telling me I'm muted. But hello, good evening, everyone. Beautiful evening. I'm Heather Fish. I'm a mindfulness teacher. I'm secretary of Mindfulness Wales. And yeah, no, don't know how long ago we met, but Kamala Gita, but it's lovely to be here, and I'm going to shut up. Have a lovely evening, everybody.
Thank you, Heather. Emma Goddard.
Hi, Liz. Hi, everybody. Yes, so my name's Emma. I actually work for Mindfulness in Schools project, but I'm not here in a formal capacity. I'm just here as a participant and to just hear about your experiences and hopefully broaden my knowledge. So it's really lovely to see you all.
Oh, thank you, Emma. Lovely to see you as well. And now coming on, I'm going to my second row now, Matt. But I never know whether you're in the same order on everybody's screen. Matt, you're first in the second row on. Don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a primary school teacher. I teach Pause B in the school where I work, and I'm also trained to teach .B foundations. And I trained to teach Pause B with you, Liz, and Kamala Gita was there as well. That was in 2016, I think. So I've kind of been associated with this group, or the Mindfulness Schools Wales group, ever since then. So yeah, always happy to learn more about how mindfulness can support us in our day-to-day work.
Thanks, Matt. Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm a primary school teacher in Swansea. I use mindfulness every day with children I teach. I usually after lunch to bring them down after being hyper in the playground. And yeah, it's a big thing in our school. We use lots of different programs, but it'd be interesting to see what I can pick up tonight as well to take back.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Sarah. And coming across to Helen now.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Helen. I work in a school in Blaenau Gwent and live in Powys. Liz trained me back in 2018 and became very passionate about mindfulness and how it helps children. I'm lucky that I teach all children from nursery to year 6, so I'm able to implement as much mindfulness as possible throughout the school, especially, I think Matt said, when they come back into the classrooms, and make them reconnect to where they are now. But we're lucky we've got lovely grounds that we can go out into, but always looking for new ways, because I think more so than ever since COVID, I don't know if other schools are the same. And it's not just schools. I've been listening to the big debate in Parliament at the moment about universities and mental health. And it just shows it's everywhere. We need to be embedding it as much as possible.
Oh, thank you, Helen. And yes, we do. So moving across now, Nick Conway.
Hi. I've got dogs here. I'm going to move room after I've spoke. My name's Nicola Conway, and I'm a community nurse, learning disability nurse. Work with children who's age 5 to 18, the school age group, with children who can have severe learning disability and mixed complex needs, really. I'm Breathworks trained. I trained with Breathworks in Manchester from 2020, and I'm just really interested to hear what's going on, really. And the other side, I volunteer with the NSPCC, so I do the Speak Out, Stay Safe workshops in the schools with the children, and it's lovely to go around the different schools of Flintshire and Wrexham and Conway and just see all the different schools and hear the little snippets of what they are doing in school that are related to mindfulness. And also I volunteer to do Childline online on to the answering PIBs, and it's so interesting hearing about the mental health side, that, as you said, there's been an explosion, self-harm, the mental health explosion. We receive emails in now. It's a virtual service. We work all from home and receive emails in from young people, and it's outstanding what's going on, you know, self-harm, the thoughts that these young people have got. And since COVID, it's massive, really, the mental health. So I just came in as I work for health. I don't use it very much. Well, Betsy haven't used me as in my mindfulness thing, but I'm linking in with other nurses who are doing mindfulness, and I'm just running courses myself. So that's me, and I'm just interested to hear what's happening with the education for all children.
Oh, thank you, Nicola. That's great. Thank you. Now I'm going on to my next row now, and Susan.
Hello, nice to meet you. And I'm a teacher in Dublin. And I just want to say thanks to Matt, because he put it in. I trained with him doing the .B foundations in 2019, and he put it into our group, and that's why I'm here. And I teach .B in my secondary school. I'm a Spanish teacher, but I've managed to negotiate 2 classes a week that I teach mindfulness to. And I'm really inspired by everything you do in Wales. You seem a light shining star compared to what we do here. So I'm just really interested to learn about what you're doing. It's great to be here.
Although there's quite a bit going on in Ireland and Northern Ireland, and both parts as well. So, you know, I've got to keep the Celtic work up. So thank you, Susan. Melanie, Mel, you there? Yeah, just checking. Melanie, can you?
Yeah, I'll go sit there just because, you know what I mean? I don't want to.
Okay, I'm going to move on in case Mel has had to go out for something. And I've got, I don't know how to say this, TH Cafe. I'm sorry, I probably totally mispronounced that. Just checking if you're there to introduce yourself. No. And the last person is just labeled TC. Just take, Melanie's had a glitch, as you do. So, just checking TC. I've muted TC because there was something going on in the background, but just checking if you're there. I'm going to invite those people who've got a glitch there to put something in the chat if they want to introduce themselves. But what a lovely variety we've got there. And I'm just going to come back to me before I turn to Kamala Gita. I'm Liz Williams, and I'm chair of Mindfulness Wales. And Mindfulness Wales has come about because there was a huge groundswell that we wanted to help Wales become a more compassionate, fairer and kinder society. And I think there's not anyone who wouldn't sort of sign up to that there. And what we've done, because just as we formed, the pandemic hit, we do roughly monthly events of this. This is one of them, on a whole variety of topics, and lots of them are on strategic things about implementing mindfulness. But we've also got what we call an education support group. And so this is a bit of a mixture. It's a Mindfulness Wales event, but it's a Mindfulness Wales education support group. And this is particularly aimed because there is so much going on in education and so much to talk about. So from time to time, we do a special Mindfulness Wales event on education. So there will be hopefully some more coming up. And if there's something you'd like us to do, just let us know. And we'll see if we can organize it, because we're looking for this to be a network and develop our relationships. And this is, we think how we get things done is talking to each other and supporting each other. And that's what tonight is really, really about. So keep in touch. This is about us having a discussion. I'd also like to invite you, if you've got questions on the way along, if you've got something you'd like to ask Emily, to put it in the chat. And we'll see if we can weave it in, because we're going to do this as a bit of a question and answer. So I'm going to now turn to Kamala Gita, and it is wonderful to think how far we've come in this nearly 10 years in terms of what you've been able to incorporate in the book that has developed over the last 10 years is really just a triumph there, and it's full of common sense, and Kamala Gita is going to share lots of that common sense with us today. So Kamala Gita, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself now, but I'm going to put my first question to you at the same time there. We've all referred to the children, and for lots of us, actually, how we could help pupils, how we could help young people is what drew us into this field in the first place there. But you've chosen to start with the teachers, and I know there's good reason for that. And I think that's worth us exploring as maybe our first question, if we explore why you've gone for teachers. And that's not excluding pupils, I know, but that's maybe our starter for 10. But please, whatever you would like to do to introduce yourself, because you haven't had your chance to go yet.
Thank you, Liz. And one of the things about being involved in a network like this, I'll tell you, mindfulness is a very small world, and you will meet people again and again. And so one of the lovely things about being involved in a network like this is the friendship, actually. So Matthew, Heather and Liz, I count as very, very good friends I've known over the years in working in this very valuable project. And so my name is Kamala Gita Hughes. So that's a Buddhist name. So that's the first thing to say, that I'm an ordained Buddhist. So Kamala means red lotus, which is a sort of symbol of love and compassion, and Gita means song or expression. So it's Song of the Red Lotus, which I think is a really good name for a Welsh woman. So I'm from the Rhondda Valley originally, and I have left Wales, but I've come back, much to my great delight, and I'm never leaving again. I live in Cardiff now, but very much still connected with the Rhondda Valley too. So I started to practice mindfulness a long time ago now, 27 years ago, maybe even 28 coming up, in the context of starting to meditate and find out about Buddhist practice and things like that. And so that's been my main route. But from there, then I've had an interest in all these applications that have sort of come out of that. So, for example, people have mentioned breathworks, you know, and Vidyamala is a very close mentor of mine. So I saw her develop breathworks, and I saw this whole kind of mindfulness world emerge. And all of us who were Buddhists got very excited, because then we thought, oh yes, we can have a job in the world teaching what we know. So that was all very exciting. And my husband trained in breathworks at that time, and also with Banga. But I have this other side to me, which is that I come from a family of educators. My parents were teachers, my grandparents were teachers on my mother's side. And having resisted it for years, because when I was a teenager, I thought I definitely do not want to be a teacher like my parents. I realized that I liked teaching, and I really enjoyed seeing people learn, and I was really good at it. So, you know, never say never, as they say. And yeah, and sort of found myself in a classroom. So when I first started to hear about the whole kind of project of mindfulness in schools, which was very much through the Mindfulness in Schools project. So it's really, really lovely that Emma's here tonight. My heart leapt, really, because it felt like these were two elements of my life. There was the mindfulness and meditation, which had been such a key path in my life, really. And then this belief I have, as all of us have in the classroom, about making a difference to young people. So when that came together, which is, as Liz said, nearly 10 years ago, and it's amazing to think that actually nearly 10 years ago, the Mindful Nation report came out as well, that I really leapt at the chance, and I just thought, yes, this is for me, and the rest, as they say, is history. So that's how I'm here today. That's how I'm here talking to you. So to answer Liz's question, yes, the teachers, why focus on the teachers? So the book is the Mindful Teacher's Handbook. It's not about specifically teaching mindfulness to young people at this stage, although it does have some sort of tips to get going on that front, and some, you know, signposting to resources about where you can train to do that. So why focus on the teachers? Okay, so first of all, I was a teacher, and I experienced stress in the classroom. You know, I did have my ways of dealing with that, because I already had mindfulness and meditation practices, but still it's demanding. It's the most, you know, it's a demanding environment. And then also seeing colleagues, you know, and colleagues struggling. And I think there's just something about the unrelenting nature of a school or college, which if you're not in it, and, you know, I'm sure it's very similar in the NHS. If you're not in it, it's very hard to understand that, you know, all these things can be happening at once. You know, you're on your way to photocopy something, and there's a phone call for you, and, you know, a child's just come in because they've fallen over in the playground and they need a plaster or something like that. There's all these things that are going on at the same time. And so it's very easy to become stressed, isn't it? And kind of confused. What should I be doing next? And very scattered. And of course, mindfulness, I mean, one of the definitions of mindfulness is this ability to bring our awareness back, to bring our attention back in a purposeful way. So it's the opposite of being scattered. So it's a skill that that we can learn and we can develop, which is about, in those scattered situations, how do we bring our awareness back and focus on what matters right now? What's next? What would help right now? So that's one thing. But the other thing was that I like Liz and Heather and Matthew, I trained to do the programs for young people, and they're great programs, really fantastic resources. And I had my own context, but then I was going into other contexts, other schools, And it just occurred to me, as it did a lot of us at the time, well, wouldn't it be better if the teachers who taught these children were passing on these practices? They've got far more knowledge about those children and those young people. They can signpost in all sorts of directions. It would be far more useful. So that was one thought. But also then, when I started to teach mindfulness for teachers, inevitably, as Liz said, people would come there and they'd say, I'm here to learn how to do this with the young people. That's all I'm interested in. And then after about week 3 or 4 of the course, they'd say, oh my goodness, I really needed this. I didn't realize how much I needed this. So over the years, that's what convinced me more and more that the focus needed to be on teachers and school staff, because TAs do just as valuable a job. And it's just interesting now that perhaps the research is starting to reflect that as well, but we can get into that later. So that's my answer to that question, Liz.
Yeah, and just coming back to that there in terms of what was behind what you're thinking. We use the term, don't we, weather in the classroom there, and you know, just really looking at how we create a climate for learning and a climate for being. And I'm coming back to my 4 things there: cope, connect, flourish, and empower change. And we forget the flourishing sometimes. So what was behind you really looking to enhance what's going on, the atmosphere, the weather in the classroom?
The weather, yeah. Okay, so you know, the traditional word for mindfulness in Pali, the ancient Indian language, is sati, which is awareness. You know, it's this present moment awareness. And we can't really create an atmosphere conducive to learning in a classroom unless we're aware. And that starts with becoming aware of ourselves in the first instance. So again, you know, it's very easy when you're in an environment like a school, that as soon as you walk in, that there's lots of things happening, and maybe there's been lots of things leading up to school. As you know, if you're a parent, you'll be getting your own children off to school and things like that, or whatever. So it's easy not to be aware. And if you're not aware, then whatever you've woken up with that morning, and it's interesting, this metaphor of the weather, because it can speak to so much, but it's not even conscious in a way. It's some sort of mood or some sort of atmosphere in ourselves that if we're not aware, if we don't take stock of ourselves, it's very, very easy to go into that situation and for things to perhaps start escalating in a way that we don't mean them to. Because guess what? We're not the only human being with weather going on. Everyone else has got their weather going on as well. All the young people will have their weather, the parents, our colleagues. And so it can really make a difference between whipping up a storm, really, or having an atmosphere that's kind of calm and focused. And I think particularly at the moment, I've just done a round of teaching courses face-to-face with teachers. You know, the first ones I've done since the pandemic, face-to-face. And one of the primary school teachers said 50% of what I do now is just managing the well-being and trying to calm the kids to learn, you know, 50% of his time. And he's like a year 5, 6 teacher. So you can imagine he's trying to get them ready now to go to secondary school. And yet this is what he's doing. And so that's not intuitive. We need tools to know how to do that. And what is offered through mindfulness is lots of different tools that can help us do that.
Yeah, I love that idea. Though, you know, the reason I asked about the weather there is the idea that we carry around our own energy, and that influences. That children can tell a nervous supply teacher as they get to the door. They don't even have to come into the classroom, and that ripples around there. And that description you said about everyone having their own weather and that own energy, that potential for chaos in the classroom is huge there. And one of the things you talked about that business of being able to ground ourselves, one of the ways that I found most useful there is actually you just can go in, you can ground, you can be there, that presence. It's that awareness as well, but there's something about the presence, isn't there, and being able to ground yourself that gives you a steadiness that actually has more chance of rippling out than if you're a little bit agitated and all over the place. That's been
and you know that this is where all the neuroscience comes in, isn't it? Because you know, more than ever now we understand that we're social emotional animals, you know, that there's so much we communicate beyond words. We pick up on each other in so many different ways, and you know, if you're calm, that will influence somebody else's nervous system without ever directly teaching the mindfulness, you know. So there's so much that we can do to to create that atmosphere. And because so many young people are coming in the morning or not coming at all. I mean, that's the other aspect, you know, children aren't coming back to school with, you know, coming from something that's very much feels like chaos, and really needing somebody to be grounded around them.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of what you've said is around modelling. That seems to me to be at the heart of that, and I'd like to go a little bit further afterwards about, you know, quite some of the actual activities and things that you move on from the modelling. But it seems to me at the heart of all of this is actually the teacher modelling that mindfulness, and you've chosen not to do that by any sort of formal method. You don't have to do this in a particular order, and you'll get to this point there, which we have a lot of choices of formats to do there, and the 8-week courses are something that lots of us have experienced have been very good there. But you've chosen to come from a slightly different angle of that modelling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think modelling is a great word, actually, because there's so much we try and model as a teacher, you know, modelling behaviour, modelling politeness, modelling kindness, all those sorts of things. So yeah, modelling a calm, purposeful presence, that really works. So yes, well, I've always found it a bit strange in the mindfulness world that it very much focuses around the 8-week course, and then there's really nothing after that, in the sense of, you know, there's no big follow-on course, or there's, you know, it's very much dependent on who you train with, and if that teacher offers further things, that's great. But a lot of the time that doesn't happen, and I've always found that strange, because you wouldn't just go to yoga for 8 weeks and then stop going to yoga classes, for example. So I've always thought that was a bit of a gap. And of course, you know, with the best will in the world, it's great while you've got the structure of a course to go to, and you've got the resources around that. But with the best will in the world, as a human being, once that structure, supportive structure stops, it's just easy to stop practicing, actually. And I think, you know, I'm pretty sure that Disana Dorje did some research showing that a few months, maybe after, like 3 months or something after completing an 8-week course, that a lot of teachers weren't practicing. And that's easy to see, isn't it? Why that would be. So one, you're losing the structure of the course, but two, what we know about teachers is they've got very little time. So that was the battle, really. And I thought, well, I'm aware of this, you know, I teach these courses, people are very enthusiastic when they're on them, but it's the rare few that carry on the practice beyond that, and that felt like a shame. So what I wanted to do, and also people were put off by coming on the courses as well. And Matthew, I know we've had conversations about this, you know, often the courses are happening in the teacher's own time, they're taking up their workload, so, you know, they're increasing their workload from one point of view. If you've got caring responsibilities or children, you might not be able to attend, so all that sort of thing. So I thought, okay, let's look at this. And partly as well, you know, sitting to meditate is only one form of practicing mindfulness. I mean, the Buddha talked in the Satipatthana Sutta, which is undoubtedly the roots of secular mindfulness. The Buddha talks about practicing when you're standing, walking, sitting, or lying down. And what that means is that that's the whole of your life, basically. We're either doing one or a version of one or other of those. So yeah, so it's something to be incorporated into your life moment by moment. And this kind of sampajana quality. So we've got sati, which is the present moment awareness, and then we've got sampajana, which is the continuity of purpose, you know, keeping perspective flowing, keeping your mindfulness flowing. So I thought, okay, let's think about this, and let's think about how teachers who feel, and TAs who feel like they've got very little time to practice, how can they benefit? So what I did was because I've taught mindfulness now to a great number of teachers, and I was aware of the ones who were carrying on their practice in some sort of way. So what I did was I decided to go back to those teachers, and there were about 10 in total, and interview them really about, well, what do you do and how do you practice and when do you practice and what sorts of practices do you do and what do you feel are the benefits and what's the cost when you don't do it, and also then what specific incidences do you find really helpful that mindfulness has really helped you in, etc., etc. Because I remember once I taught the hot cross bun through the scenario of a teaching observation, and one of the teachers said at the end, "I can't believe you did that. I've just come literally from that situation," you know. So there was a way of making it really practical, and I think teachers with very little time, they really appreciate practical. So having done those interviews, which was my pandemic project really, I transcribed them, and then I looked for common themes, and things that came out were things like observations, inspections, difficult communication with parents or colleagues, as well as thriving, you know, creativity in the classroom. So I looked for common themes, and then I kind of mapped the material to those, as well as having real life testimony about how these people were bringing it in. So that's how I decided to do it in that way. And the other thing is that it's a handbook, and this is again going back to the fact that at the end of the 8-week course, you're ready to start practicing mindfulness. So, you know, it feels like at the end, it's the beginning. People are, you know, they're into it now, they're ready to do it. So the whole idea of a handbook is this is something you can come back to. It's not just something you'll read once, but like any book that you value. So I think about the books I had in my PGC about behavior management or things like that, that, you know, I would think, oh, I need to go back to that and read that chapter again. And I very much wanted it to be like that. So there's space in the book to journal and to make notes and to kind of make it your own. So yeah, that was the thinking behind that.
So going to practice then, can you give us a flavour maybe of one of the chapters about how you've actually picked up one of the themes, how you've gone into it, maybe a little bit of a flavour about how you've carried it through from the advice to teachers through to, because you have actually taken it through to suggestions for how you might actually use it practically based on your experience and the experience you've got.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, one thing I'm noticing is we haven't done any practice in this session, so maybe I could lead a little practice now based on this idea of weather in the classroom. So if I can just invite you to sit comfortably. Closing your eyes, or perhaps just having a soft gaze in front of you. Rolling your shoulders back, so there's a lovely sense of uplift in the spine. Spine following its natural curve. And breathe in. And as we breathe out, just allowing the body to sink a little bit more into the chair or the sofa where we're sitting. And let's check in with our grounding. So as best we can, taking our awareness to the sensations of the feet on the floor. So that contact the feet are making with the floor. And exploring the sensations here. Does it feel hard or soft or fluffy? And then coming to the seat area. So the area that's making contact with the chair, the lower back, the bottom. And just noticing any sensations here of contact or pressure, a sense of balance. Sitting here on the chair or the sofa. And then come into the upper body. And imagining that you've got that gentle sky cord from the crown of the head that's just gently pulling us up. So that the spine is aligned, but in its natural curve. Spacious. And then bringing your awareness to the chest area. And popping in that question, well, what's my internal weather right now? And just giving a bit of space for any response. So it might be a word or image, or just some sense of mood. Whatever it is, just saying hello to it. Acknowledging it's there. And whether it's sunny or rainy, overcast, dull, bright, just allowing it to be the way it is. No need to change or fix. Knowing that weather systems can blow through quickly and change. Letting it be as it is. Breathing with it. And then wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, having a little stretch perhaps. And when you're ready, externalizing your awareness once more.
Oh, thanks, Kamalgita. I'm just going to invite you all just to the moment's reflection on the fact that we can, however you're feeling now, actually can be transposed into a classroom with great benefit for adults and children alike. I'm just going to sort of clarify now, and it might be nice to have a little bit of a response from people there. What it seems to me, Kamalgita, your premise is that actually there are ways of using mindfulness in a classroom that don't necessarily require people to have engaged in an 8-week course. That it can, people can dip into the Mindful Teacher's Handbook, but they can use that in ways that actually are really going to help ground them and their pupils and enhance their lives in the course of everyday life.
I mean, I think the focus is very much on teachers, having those resources for themselves, and well, you use the word modeling, so being able to practice those themselves, and it is my experience that quite quickly school staff do want to start sharing these in some sort of way. So for example, I've just had a teacher come on a course with me, and when she goes back, the staff say, "What did you do?" And she says, "Oh, well, we did this. We put our feet on the floor." And she said they're all putting their feet on the floor in the staff room and things like that. So I think it's just the way schools work. They're very relational. So yes, I think it's really good for school staff to have some sense of what mindfulness is, some sense of modeling, and some capacity themselves before they start passing that on, particularly in a very structured way. So
yeah. And then it seemed to me as well that when I read the book, and I'm sure the others of us who've read it, who have been teaching mindfulness there, you'd pulled together lots of the learning that we've done over these last few years. into a compendium of common sense things that you can do around and about there. So it also is perfectly helpful and appropriate for those of us who are teaching mindfulness. But there's a bit in the middle as well, which is the level that you haven't included, although it fits so nicely alongside that, and that is the curriculum. Yeah, so there just is the curriculum links as well, and just that has been taken to a further level now. And in the Mindfulness in Schools project has already got the English mapping on their website, mapped to PSHE, sexuality education. The Welsh version for the curriculum for Wales and health and well-being is about to go in, and for Mindfulness in Schools project, and the present is on the way there. So that for some of the courses that people teach in schools as well, we've got the curriculum relationships as well there. It seems to me then that we are talking about a choice on different levels there, about getting mindfulness to people at different levels according to where the school is at and how they choose to proceed.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of challenges, aren't there? I mean, one challenge, for example, is that, and it's just becoming harder and harder. I mean, look at all the stuff we've had around school budgets in Wales. At the moment, horrendous situations in schools where the budget just won't balance, or the staff redundancies or whatever. And Matt, being a union man, can probably tell us more about that, but it's pretty dire, isn't it, Matt? And then and so one of those challenges is that sometimes a school invests in a person to train, and then that person leaves the school. I've seen that happen time and again, and the school loses, because it's all, in some ways quite rightly, a lot of the training is very specific about you're the person who's training. It's not the school buying in the training. Suddenly, there's been schools that have been looked like real kind of champions, and then 5 years later, there's no mindfulness being taught there at all. So there's something about sustainability, really, and the model. And yeah, I suppose things are changing all the time, aren't they? I mean, maybe ChatGPT is going to be teaching mindfulness courses, who knows? So it's like, how do we make a kind of meaningful situation? And we are lucky in Wales because we do have the curriculum for Wales. But that wasn't my focus, because the teachers and the TAs, they're the experts on that. I'm not the expert on it. And so it was more my focus to help them develop these skills, or if they had done an 8-week course, give them a resource that could keep them going in some sort of way, so that they could bring their knowledge then and their capacities to whatever context they're in. And I think I was very struck when the Mindfulness Initiative brought out their education toolkit. It was a couple of years ago now, 2021. Catherine Weir and co had pulled together, all this a research summary, and one of the things they found was that even if you didn't directly teach mindfulness to young people, being taught by a mindful teacher had a huge effect, and that they discovered that many teachers who practice mindfulness rediscovered the joy of the classroom. They were more engaged, their behaviour management skills were better, in the sense that they weren't overreacting to perhaps low-level disruption. They were more purposeful in the classroom. So it just struck me, they're the experts, I'm not the expert. So how can I benefit them?
And on that note there, sustainability being a real key theme there, I think that might be something to open up to everyone. I will put the link to that document Kamalise has just mentioned, which is a cracking document. Matt even appears in there as a good practice example. So it's an even better document. But I will send the link to that one there because it's freely downloadable from the Mindfulness Initiative, and it is a pretty good read. It's got lots of references in it, lots of case studies and good practice, and fits in with all that we've talked about today. But I think that sustainability is a bit of an issue there, and we've got lots of expertise around the room there, and I'm just going to invite people there, if you've got any comments either about sustainability or about your own experience and how that might map against what we've been talking about. You know, the different levels, that sustainability, that modeling. Just invite you actually to just, I think we're a small enough group, we don't need to put it in the chat. Just perhaps raise your hand. I'm thinking, you know, using the reactions button. Any thoughts on any of that and from your own experience? Susan.
Thank you. That was very interesting. I hope you can hear me. I have my headphones in. Okay. So in Ireland, the sustainability question is a little bit different because our system is once you are in a school, your pension and all of that are kind of tied to that school. So it's quite a big step to leave if you all are already in that school. So it is a worthwhile investment for heads to do that if they have a teacher who's interested. But I wholeheartedly agree with the concept of the mindful teacher, and that it doesn't have to be. And in fact, I think it's great. You know, I'm a Spanish teacher first and foremost. But I teach mindfulness, and then some of my classes I will teach bits too as we go along. They won't necessarily do the formal course, but we will do practices and we'll take time outs and do a DOPI and all of this. And I think that gives such validation and importance to the concept of mindfulness and the mindful practitioner living as a model in the school. But it's a matter of spreading that then, getting more people to do it.
Thank you, Susan.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Helen.
I agree with everything that has been said about how important, and I think more so now with the pressures of the well-being of the children, is actually impacting the staff as well, because you're mindful of how the children are. We can't fix it, we can support it, but we also need that support to support the children. So everything that has been said is so true, that if we're not mindful of our own well-being, we're unable to pass it on to the children. And I think sometimes it is having that confidence of, if you need to do that practice whilst in the middle of working in a classroom, in a situation, or a perfect time to introduce it for the whole class as well, so that they're having more experiences of it. And I know for myself, there are some classes it works really well with because the children embrace it. And there are other classes that you've got such a mixture of children that you only need one or two who are not willing to take it on board, that can impact the others. But like they've said, you've got to spread it, because I only see these children, because I do PPA cover once a fortnight. It needs to be embedded more frequently. And exactly like you've said, you can have a staff member trained and then they move on, and then that's one less again. So it is reaching out to others and hoping that they have the passion and see the benefits of it as you do.
And you know, I found when I used to go in and teach the dot B in a classroom, the teachers would really enjoy doing the practices, you know, which are mainly quite short practices, you know. So yeah, and thank you so much for saying that as well. I mean, schools are being described as the fourth emergency service now, and teachers are having, and TAs are having, and heads having to deal with things they're just not qualified to deal with. So a friend of mine who's a head, somebody from CAMS came to our school, and she was like, we're never going to let this woman out, barricade the doors, you know, because, and apparently there was an incident in front of this lady from CAMS, and she was shocked. She could not believe that teachers were having to deal with this, you know, with no training. So this is the reality at the moment. I mean, in many schools, child protection cases have doubled, you know, certainly in the schools that I'm involved with. And, you know, I had another colleague who had to exclude a child because they punched a teacher in the face, and we're talking primary school level, you know, so it's really tough at the moment. It's really, really tough. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Matt, about what your experience is, but it's...
Yeah, I think it is really hard. And I still have days when I struggle, you know, and finish the day thinking, well, what happened to my mindfulness today? And it's just what I find helpful now is I'm much better at sort of letting that go and going back in the next day and starting again, whereas before I would have held on to that kind of worry about what, you know, the dreadful performance I given the afternoon in front of my class where they were driving me nuts, you know. And it happens still, you know, but it's coming back to those practices, and knowing that they're there, it kind of brings you back down again. And if a day has gone well, yeah, as I say, being able to let that go and sort of forgive myself a bit as well, because we are under such a lot of stress, aren't we? And it's impossible to be that calm, mindful. Well, I think it is person all day, every day. You know, so I've learned to give myself a bit of a break, I think. Because yeah, this teaching is really, it always has been stressful, but it doesn't seem to be getting any easier. It seems to be going the opposite way, if anything.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
And I don't know about other people, but since I've done the training, like Matt said, then it's forgiving yourself and saying, well, that was today and we can move on. But it's since doing the training, it is very much noticing that. Whereas before, perhaps you wouldn't have given it the time to have noticed, well, things went wrong today because of, or we've had to deal with, or this or whatever. And I think that was, on a personal level, that's a huge thing for me, is actually stopping and noticing how I'm feeling, how that impacts others. And like Matt said, forgiving yourself and saying tomorrow's a new day. My famous words to the children, but perhaps I don't take that on board myself.
Yeah, and I just think it's a caring profession, isn't it? So it goes with everything that goes with any other caring profession, like nursing or, you know, anything like that, being a social worker. The stakes are so high, aren't they? The stakes are so high. You care and you want to help. And, you know, I mean, again, my parents, just witnessing them, I remember my father saying to me, if kids don't have it, the way he phrased it was, if kids don't have it at home, as in a good life at home, they've got to have it in school, you know? And that thing about you will do anything actually to help them, you know, in that sort of sense, you'll put yourself out. And it's just, it's part of it. And yet but then, you know, it's so easy to get into the territory of burnout. So it's like, how do you, include you in all that as well as a person, as a human being. I mean, I do think the camaraderie in schools is brilliant as well. You know, it's somebody was saying the other day they'd left the profession and they said there's nothing like it, and I believe it's the same with nursing as well, that there's a great camaraderie in it. But it's hard, isn't it? It's really, really hard. And you know, I am wondering at the moment how much further can this go, because it feels like there's just this trajectory at the moment, and something's got to happen, isn't it? You know, in terms of all the other factors as well, workload, pay, the environment, how that's managed, cuts, as well as all the challenges, mental health challenges from young people. So it's no wonder, is it? It's no wonder that people get stressed, they get depressed, they're anxious, they burn out.
And we can't solve everything, but we know that there are ways that we've been talking about tonight that can help a lot of people. And the message, really, this is about us having the strength of knowing that, this is a good thing. We are all in this together, and hoping we get it out to as many people as possible. And the message I think that I'm hearing tonight there is about the importance of embedding. If we can move towards embedding, so really as many people as possible to do an 8-week course for adults, and one of the courses we've got for children, they are all great, and they really will help. But around and about that, there needs to be something. There needs maybe to be an introduction. Maybe some staff need to test this out to see that actually it does have an impact. This is pretty good. Maybe I'll go a bit further.
Definitely.
Yeah, when you've done a course there, how do I actually carry this on? How do I make it part of my classroom life?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think sometimes it's deceptively simple, isn't it? You don't think it will have an effect because it seems so simple. How can stopping and taking a few breaths have an effect? Well, it does. People do find that it does. And people are surprised how they can calm themselves in a very frantic environment, that it doesn't take much, particularly if people return to it. And that was the flavour I was picking up, that people would incorporate it into their day. They found that very effective, to do some sort of short practice in the morning, and then throughout the day to keep remembering to stop, to take that breath, to come back to themselves, with things like the breathing space or the mindful minute or whatever it is, and then to carry on. So because if we think about our awareness and our attention, it does wander, doesn't it? Or we direct it, and so this is just another way of directing it back to that purpose, or whatever the purpose is now, because purposes change throughout the day.
Now, anyone else who feels they haven't got a comment that hasn't been aired, or something they would like to say? Is there a final message, Kamalagita, that you would like to leave us with? Let's see.
Well, just encouragement, really. It sounds like everyone here does have a mindfulness connection or practice in some sort of way. So it's just to keep going, even if it's lapsed, it hasn't really lapsed, it's all still there. It's a bit like riding a bike, you just need to get back on it and ride it again. So, and to, well, to know that you matter, and that you're doing a really important job. And so to, to give yourself what you need to do that job, really. And as Matt said, being kind to yourself as well. None of us are perfect. We're all just doing our best in a very complex world. So yeah, giving yourself a break on that front.
And also, if some of you may have read the book there, or some of you may want to read it, or to give it to somebody if you think that someone else might welcome that. Camille's got a bit of an offer that she's.
Yes. So if I can, will I be able to share my screen? Yes, I can share my screen. So because you've been all so kind coming tonight, I'd like to offer you a discount on the book. So I hope you can all see that. So there's 30% off the book with the code mind. Oh, she's she's forgotten the F. Mindful. I'm sure it should be mindful. It should be mindful, so don't put mind dull in it, which is actually the opposite of mindful. Mindful 30, and that's at Crown House website. So you might want to take a screenshot of that now. Otherwise, I think Liz will include it in the recording when she sends that out, which you'll all get. And it's valid for the 30th of June. So that gives you 30% off and a free delivery. So I hope you enjoy that.
Lovely. There we go. So I will send out the recording of this session. I will send out that link with the correct code if you're interested on that one. And I will send you the link to Implementing Mindfulness, an evidence-based guide for schools. I think that's the title, but I'll check that and I'll send you the link to the Mindfulness Initiative site as well, because there's some really good resources there as we move towards embedding mindfulness in all settings, really. I would say much more than education settings, and Helen made a really good point about HE and the mental health issues that we have throughout the education system, and Nicola Conway throughout the health system as well. You're seeing it from all directions, aren't you? So we can do our small things to help take it forward. So thanks, Gita. Thanks for bringing together all of the wisdom that has been gained over the last few years. There, I've been saying it really made me realise how far we'd come. The years from when we first started teaching that, and how the context has changed as well. We haven't got as far as we might have liked to, but we certainly have moved a long way in terms of the acceptance, the acknowledgement, the recognition that mindfulness has something important to offer as part of the diet of all sorts of other things, but it's got a really important offer in itself there if we can get it embedded. And the help that you've given us by gathering all of that together in a compendium as a handbook is really useful. So thank you for doing that, and thank you all for joining in.
Thank you, Liz. And just to say as well, we do have this great opportunity with Curriculum for Wales. It's still there, isn't it? It's even though there's been many issues, but it's still all to play for. So when it's a perfect opportunity really to embed mindfulness, as you say. So,
and if anyone would like an advanced copy, it's going to be on the MIS website in time when it's all tidied up. But if anyone would like an advanced copy, if you get in touch with me
yes,
via Mindfulness Wales, then does someone say yes, please? There,
me.
Yeah, I can send you the draft, which are just they're not tidy in terms of the grids and everything, but the content is there, and you can see quite how much. Oh, Helen, and say anyone else. If anyone else wants it, put your email in the chat, and I can make sure I send that out there, because there's a lot of relevance there, which will help. But that hasn't been the focus of tonight there, because it's been actually about that modelling, sustainability, and all of that relies on the staff. It's a mindful teacher that takes it forward in whatever way, whatever they're taking forward. It's down to the mindful teacher.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you all, and please keep in touch. Please let us know if there is anything you would like us to look at putting on, some events, you know, something you would like us to discuss there, because we can add that into the programme of Mindfulness Wales events. This is up to us to create the network we want to have and to take that forward. So so please keep in touch, and thank you all very much indeed for coming out this evening, or coming on this evening. You haven't exactly come out. You know what I mean.
Thank you.
Thank you.